How's it going?
Well, let's start with something you had mentioned earlier with the Lake Mead, Lake Powell basically drying up. I mean, and now we see the indications are for La Nina to continue through the summer, and La Nina basically presents conditions that enhance, exacerbate, promote dry conditions in the West. In other words, the drought's going to get worse. How is California, Arizona, how are all the West states dealing with this? What are you saying?
Well, what we hear here is by June 1st, all people who own homes and lawns can only water once a week, and that's it. That's it.
Is there a restriction on like an hour of watering, half an hour? Is there how are they going to monitor that? I mean, do they have like a flow meter, you know,
Here's the
to the
problem.
sprinkler heads?
I know. This is why it's so ridiculous. It's so dire, yet like we're not taking it like well, maybe they do know it's dire, but like they don't want to once again alarm the populace. But I don't know how they're going to I think what happens first is they get like charged extra, so it's like a money issue. But those right who can afford it are like whatever, and those with lawns probably can afford it at this point. But in Arizona too, a state that has like a monsoon season in the summer is having water restrictions too, and usually that's an anomaly, even though it's like a desert state, but they have like a lot of water considering they get rain in the summer. But it's so dire, and then New Mexico, like so the entire Southwest is pretty much under extreme conditions, and like they tell us it's gonna get worse. All right, let's see what that looks like.
Well, I don't know what the distribution of lawn types are across the Southwest and West and Southern, like California, but I think a good place to start would be to like no person can have Kentucky bluegrass as their lawn because Kentucky bluegrass, you have to water the shit out of it. And it's like they should be saying, if you want a lawn with whatever landscaping, use native plants, plain and simple. Plants that are adapted to arid conditions.
Okay, Jim. Honestly, this is just gonna get so bad, and like the
Yeah.
people, we're just not reacting once again, like or we're not rising to the occasion. And real quick, the I heard on the news, the local news, which was kind of interesting because we get the climate crisis issue gets like 30 seconds or less like mentioned on like these ABC things, but it was the local firefighter who the people who are battling these like ridiculous uh record wildfires in May and stuff, they mentioned climate change. So like the people on the ground are aware. There's like this mismatch once again. Like, okay, there's too much to say on this,
That's
but yeah,
right. Aren't there some like nasty fires raging across Arizona and New Mexico right now?
yes, and it's like really bad in New Mexico, um, like near the capital of Santa Fe, and like
Oh,
the
really?
yeah the mountains, the area around there, and then like so I think it's to the east of Santa Fe. It's not in Santa Fe, it's like the other side of the mountain. And like those people have
Hmm.
had to get evacuated.
And kind of switching to the other side of the Pacific. But look at the Siberian fires. It's absolutely, I mean, everyone's been focused on Russia's war with Ukraine, but Siberia literally is like burning down. There's so many hundreds of thousands of acres just going up, and the people are like screaming at the government to do something. I mean, it's just absolutely horrible conditions happening in Siberia.
And you're mentioning Siberia, like a region that's known to be like super cold, and it's pretty okay. We know the problem. Obviously, the world is warming, but like the climate chaos issue, it's just things are unraveling at accelerating speeds. I know you mentioned, and so
I was talking with someone who was talking about how they were planting their crops with like a home garden kind of deal. Then there was a strong frost, and then it went to extremely hot and dry. It was just like these wild swings. And it's like that's the jet stream. There are now, and we still have kind of that bipolar polar going on. If you look on at North America's temperatures, Alaska down through especially the Canadian Shield, right, to almost to the northern plain states of the U.S., it's considerably cooler than average for this time of year. Considerably cooler. But then you just go on the other side of the Arctic Ocean, and it is hotter than usual. It's just really interesting, the split there. And there are now reports saying that certain parts of the Arctic are warming 6 times faster than the rest of the planet.
Wow.
That's like, holy shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just runaway warming at this point, it seems like, right? I mean, the Arctic is not going back to whatever we thought it was.
No,
What we conceptualize is not the Arctic anymore, I could even argue, correct? I mean, this is just 6 times in just certain parts, right? But
in certain parts, yeah. I mean, it's definitely 3 times, and this latest studies were indicating 4 times overall for the Arctic. But then you got certain pockets like Siberia that's like 6 times. It's just gone absolutely crazy. And here's an interesting thing: recent analyses have been looking at, because in the past, oh, the Arctic is warming this time and faster. They've always looked at temperatures from like the Arctic Circle to the pole. Well, the Arctic Circle is an artificial construct, and it changes with the tilt of the axis as to where the Arctic Circle is, what the latitude is. So there's variability in there. So there are new studies now looking at from 60 degrees to 90 degrees, because degree latitude is it's still a human construct, but it's set. I mean, it's like you have this distance from the equator to the pole, you divide it equally into these measurements, these increments, boom. And when they started looking at from 60 to 90s, when they started saying, oh, it's 3-4 times faster than the rest of the planet. And I mean, I'm sure you could do a similar analysis from 65 degrees to the pole, whatever. But, I guess 60 is a nice round number. Yeah, but 60 is kind of defined like, yeah, this is kind of where the subpolar starts, and then
okay.
you take it into the polar region. So I actually favor using the 60 latitude as opposed to the Arctic Circle, because there's less variability, which makes data analysis more valid. And we have all the data, so we just go back and just reevaluate everything. So it's not like you're losing data. You just go back and redo the calculations. So I prefer that, because as I said, the Arctic Circle is always changing depending on the tilt of the axis. The more the Earth tilts over, the lower the latitude is for the Arctic Circle.